Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and to insert extraneous material on H.R. 6359.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the Pregnant Students' Rights Act, legislation that affirms a simple but powerful principle. Expecting mothers should be encouraged to pursue their education like any other student. Pregnant students often receive incorrect guidance or no guidance at all on how to navigate classes while pregnant. In many cases, women feel pressured to end their pregnancies or risk academic failure despite protections that exist now under federal law. The Pregnant Students' Rights Act requires schools to clearly communicate what accommodations and protections pregnant and parenting students are entitled to. That includes excused absences for medical needs, the ability to make up missed work, and protection from discrimination and retaliation. More specifically, this bill requires information to be emailed to students at least once each academic year and appear in student handbooks, at orientation, at student health or counseling centers, and on the institution's website. When students know their rights, they are empowered to stay enrolled, stay engaged, and succeed. This legislation doesn't burden colleges. It simply increases transparency by helping schools communicate consistently and avoid confusion or unnecessary disputes. This is a common-sense, compassionate measure that promotes transparency and ensures pregnant students have the support they need to create a better future for themselves and their child. Mr. Speaker, let's cherish life for both the child and his or her mother who dreams of academic success. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting the Pregnant Students' Rights Act and stand up for the dignity, opportunity, and educational success of every student. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Michigan reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to H.R. 6359, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act. This bill requires schools to provide pregnant students with information about on-campus and community resources and accommodations to assist them in carrying a baby to term while they pursue an education. Unfortunately, instead of sharing unbiased and comprehensive information, this bill requires schools to distribute only partial information about a student's rights under Title IX and selective information and resources that solely encourage students to carry a pregnancy to term. It provides no information about rights and accommodations for students who may find themselves in a medical situation that requires an abortion. Now, repeating the idea that comprehensive information must be provided does not make it true. Title IX entitles the students to the information, but this bill only requires some of that information to be provided. Now, while the bill's proponents continue to assert that students are unaware of their rights, they provide no justification or evidence that students are any more or less aware of their rights or accommodations specific to carrying a child to term. If we're concerned about students who do not have a full understanding of their rights, then we should provide comprehensive all of the information necessary to address their concerns. By shielding students from health information, resources, and rights that are available to them, Republicans are denying them the ability to choose what may be best for them and their families. For these reasons, I urge my colleagues to oppose the bill and reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just have to go back to the same argument that we had in committee. We don't prohibit schools from giving a full panoply of information. Our concern is that they haven't been. Pregnant students have been left without full information that comes and is by law required under Title IX on all aspects of medical care, of counseling, of opportunity. But sadly, that's been left out as far as saying, if you are pregnant and you want to continue as pregnant in this school, we're going to support you in that. Title IX gives all of the information. We're not going to be redundant. We're just making sure that you also include, young lady, if you're pregnant and you want to continue in school, we're going to do our best to help you and provide all the resources. I just wish we could catch hold of this. And so I'm pleased to yield 5 minutes to the gentlewoman from Iowa, the sponsor of this common sense, compassionate, and helpful bill, Ms. Hinson.
Gentlelady from Iowa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the chairman for yielding and his excellent work in shepherding this bill through the Education and Workforce Committee. I rise today to support my bill, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act. This is a common sense piece of legislation because when Roe versus Wade was rightfully overturned in 2022, the next chapter of the pro-life movement began. We were all given the opportunity to help strengthen our support for unborn babies and for new moms. As a mom of two, this issue is personal for me because I know that when you're pregnant, there are about 1 million questions that are going through your head at any given time. You've got the doctor's appointments, you've got new financial responsibilities, and pregnant students have so much on their plate as they're working to balance school and have a healthy pregnancy at the same time. So I think it's just unacceptable that so often they choose between finishing their education and having their baby despite the Title IX protections that are already in place. So under Title IX, pregnant students have the right to stay in school and finish their education and achieve their career goals. However, the academic disparity does exist because of limited resources and sometimes support for pregnant students. These women may fear institutional reprisal, loss of an athletic scholarship, or even negative impacts on their academic opportunities and their standing. So those fears and anxieties are not just unjust to women, but they are a poor reflection of how our higher education institutes are treating pregnant students. Higher education institutions and universities have a responsibility to empower all their students, all of them, to succeed, including pregnant students. They deserve to be treated with respect and surrounded with care and love. And that's what this piece of legislation is designed to do. I have visited pregnancy resource centers in Iowa and met with so many of those who have dedicated their cause to life, many of whom have traveled right here to Washington, D.C. for the March for Life this weekend, maybe a snowy March for Life this weekend. And it has been inspiring to me to see all of the pro-life community spring into action to really help our expecting mothers and their babies to thrive. Because that is what this movement is all about. It's about recognizing the sanctity of every life and valuing life at every stage. It is crucial that pregnant women know that they have people standing behind them, resources available to them, and that they are entitled to these accommodations on campuses. Completing an education as a mother is not only empowering for the student, but this is vital to ensuring a strong future for her child, for our next generation. So the Pregnant Students' Rights Act amends the Higher Education Act to require our colleges and universities to clearly distribute information about pregnant students' rights and available resources through student handbooks, emails, websites, orientations, while promoting accountability when those rights are violated for our students. And it's troubling that some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are so dug in on their pro-abortion stances and agenda that they would oppose providing pregnant students with information on their rights and resources available to them to continue their education and have a healthy pregnancy. Supporting women who choose life should not be a partisan issue. Every woman who completes her studies while pregnant strengthens our families, our communities, and our workforce. So I hope my colleagues across the aisle will help to vote to empower pregnant women and support this vital, life-affirming legislation. This bill is a step in the right direction to creating a culture of life in our society, and a step that we must take as we continue to pursue policies that help our families to grow and thrive from Iowa and beyond across the country. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Gentlelady from Iowa reserves. Gentleman from Michigan reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Georgia, Ms. Macbeth.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much to the ranking member of the Education and Workforce Committee, Mr. Bobby Scott. Thank you. Like so many women across the country, I struggled for so many years to get pregnant. My husband and I, we tried everything that we could do to start a family of our own. So being a mom for me was what I always wanted to do, and I wanted to be the best mom that I could be. When we finally succeeded, I remember that I had never really been so happy. All the prayers I prayed to God, I finally felt like my prayers were answered. The moment I prayed for years was happening, and I wanted to tell everyone that I was going to be a mom. But one day, I woke up covered in blood. It's hard to describe the agony of a miscarriage, to describe the heartbreak, the utter helplessness. And you fall directly into pain and despair. After my second miscarriage, I wondered if God ever had plans for me to be a mom. So when I got pregnant a third time, I was completely overjoyed. But at 4 months, I was rushed to the hospital where I learned I had suffered a fetal demise. That means a stillborn. My doctors thought it would be safer to end the pregnancy naturally, so for 2 weeks, I carried my stillborn child within my womb, within my belly. For 2 weeks, I carried that lost pregnancy. 2 weeks, I carried my dead fetus as they waited for me to go into labor. I never ended up going into labor on my own. And when the doctors finally induced me, I faced the pain of childbirth without the hope for a living child. This story is uniquely mine, but it's not just my story. Millions of women in our country, women in this room, women all throughout America, women that you, people here, you actually know and you love them, have suffered a miscarriage or stillbirth. Congress should be making sure that women are aware of all of their rights, not just cherry-picking the ones that we want to highlight over others to make a point about abortion. So, for the women in your life whose stories that you don't even know, for the women across the country whose lives you may not even understand the choices and the environments that they live in.
I yield an additional minute.
Gentlelady is recognized.
And for the women in America who have gone through things some people can never even imagine, I ask my colleagues to vote no on this misguided bill. It's not that we're not trying to empower women who are making choices during their pregnancy. That's not at all. But let's make sure that they are empowered with every tool and every resource and every bit of information they deserve to make the choices they need to make about their lives, their bodies, and their pregnancies. This body should not be determining what decisions they make for themselves. We talk about God. God gives us choice. God gives us choice to make the decisions that we believe are best for ourselves. We have no right to take those choices away from them. So I'm asking every colleague on the other side of the aisle, I've been there. I've had to make choices. So let's do the right thing and make sure that every woman has the full breadth of the ability to make the choices that she needs to make. And I yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to my dear friend and colleague from Georgia, as you've discussed that tragic story with me before, my heart does break. But having experienced that in my own personal family as well, I understand what you're saying. I'm just not capable, I guess, of communicating that this bill is affording all the questions to be answered, all of the issues to be addressed, but also to give pregnant women who are blessed to be able to continue caring to completion the opportunity to also know that their academic opportunity will continue as well. That's all we're attempting to do. So my heart breaks with that story, but my heart also says we want to make sure, and that's why I appreciate Representative Hinson's bill, that it expands the opportunity and information that's given. And so now I yield, I'm privileged to yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Illinois, chair of the Congressional Family Caucus, also a member of the Education Workforce Committee, Ms. Miller.
Gentlelady from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of H.R. 6359, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act. College can be a challenging environment, especially for pregnant women. Many feel forced to choose between motherhood and their education. Nearly 30% of all abortions in the United States are performed on women in college. Title IX already protects the right of pregnant women to stay in school. However, many of them face a lack of resources and support. Some even fear punishment and a loss of scholarships simply for carrying their baby to full term while taking classes. The Pregnant Students' Rights Act requires colleges and universities to inform pregnant women of their rights and protections. This includes information on modified class schedules, or excused absences. This bill also requires universities to inform pregnant women how to file a complaint with the Department of Education if their Title IX protections are violated. Let me be clear, no woman should ever have to choose between finishing her education or experiencing the joy of motherhood. And while to my colleague on the other side, I have had a similar situation also, but I do want to thank her for acknowledging that the life within her was a baby. Women are fully capable of raising children and getting an education at the same time. I know because I did it. Thank you to Congresswoman Hinson for your leadership of the Pregnant Students' Rights Act, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Michigan reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Washington State, Ms. Randall.
Gentlelady from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Ranking Member Scott. I rise today in strong opposition to H.R. 6359, a bill that claims to protect pregnant students, but actually mandates they get less, not more, information about their rights. If the sponsor of this bill and the majority party actually believed in supporting student parents, then they would take real action, not just grandstand on the House floor because the March for Life is this weekend. The bill before us today requires the dissemination of incomplete information, but it also comes after House Republicans have worked alongside the Trump regime to dismantle and weaken the Department of Education and protections for students who file complaints around Title IX violations, among other things. That has dismantled subsidized loan programs and financial aid, that has decimated Medicaid, the #1 payer for births in this country, in order to pay for tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy and fund ICE's violent reign in our communities. If we believed in supporting student parents, we would put more money into childcare subsidies, more money into financial aid, more money into food assistance, so that the women in college, the people who are students, who get pregnant, who have a tough decision to make, would have all of the resources and support they need to make the decision that is right for them. It's not our job to tell a student what decision is right for them. It's not our job to tell any high school graduate that they need to go to college, right? I hear Republicans say that all the time. I tend to agree. I believe that students deserve all the options and all the support to make the choice that is right for them. But mandating incomplete information while gutting the programs that would allow a pregnant student to choose to stay pregnant, to choose to complete school, is a fallacy. It is political theater, and it is doing a disservice to the students we are purporting to support. I have had a chance to work with a lot of students who have become pregnant, both from like the time I was in junior high when a friend of mine had a pregnancy scare, to a time when I was in college, to being a volunteer in the Bay Area where I was on a rapid response line in case someone needed to take a bus 3.5 hours from their college campus into the city because that's the only place that they could access either maternity care or OBGYN care or access abortion care. Because we have not funded healthcare in rural communities across the country, because we have gutted programs that provide actual support for pregnant people. This is a joke. Let's make sure they get an email with all the information. It is unserious. And for that, I urge all of my colleagues to vote no on this bill and to take serious action to support students, pregnant or not. Thank you.
Gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to make a few factual comments in response. I think also provide some information relative to my colleagues' previous comments. Republicans just passed working families tax cuts, which gave American families the largest tax cut in American history. Under the bill, the typical family will get up to $10,900 in additional take-home pay. Households earning less than $100,000 will get a 12% tax cut compared to July 2025. And equally as important, if not more so, the child tax credit will double to $2,200 for more than 40 million American families. That is taking into consideration the children that come from pregnancy, that are born. We're not leaving them without resources. The Working Families Tax Cuts promotes life by putting hardworking families first, ensuring they keep their hard-earned money in their pockets for their necessary uses. And with that, I reserve.
Reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as they may consume. First, to suggest that big ugly bill gave tax cuts primarily to the wealthy, but in the meanwhile cut health care and Medicaid, SNAP benefits, and ran up trillions of dollars in additional debt. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to submit a letter from over 50 organizations representing civil rights, labor organizations, youth advocates, women's rights, reproductive rights, and others. It says in part, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act I describe it as a thinly veiled anti-abortion law that would not address key barriers to pregnant students' educational attainment, but would instead further shame and stigmatize people for their pregnancy outcomes. They further say that this bill purports to protect the rights of pregnant students and falls far short of the protections that are actually necessary for pregnant and parenting students and their children. It points out that if you really want to be serious, there are some things we could actually do to support the students. One, like explicit protections under Title IX, non-discrimination protections at the state and local level, accessible and affordable child care, access to early childhood education and pre-kindergarten services, transportation services, and others who would actually make a difference. Mr. Speaker, we have constantly heard that they are providing comprehensive information and not amending Title IX. Fact is, Title IX does have comprehensive rights that are listed under Title IX that are comprehensive. This bill, however, only requires partial information about those rights. When only partial information is given, that could have fatal consequences to women. Tragically, women have died because of anti-abortion legislation that have passed in some states that require women to be close to death before they can have what could have been earlier a safe abortion. If they mistime it and get closer to death than they thought, many have actually died in those circumstances. Legislators voted for those laws. We have to note that we should not allow colleges to withhold information that could save women's lives. So I would hope that this bill would not pass under that situation, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Without objection, the information requested will be entered into the record, and the gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Florida, or gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like consent to enter a list of significant pro-family, pro-life, medical community members, family research members, and students for the record in support of the Pregnant Students' Rights Act.
Without objection.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Oregon, Ms. Bonamici.
Gentlewoman from Oregon is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Ranking Member Scott, for your leadership and for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I oppose this bill because, among other reasons, the information that is required, it's incomplete and it's biased. As written, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act is unfairly limited regarding the information it requires colleges to provide to students and the students it chooses to support. It does not include information about comprehensive family planning resources, and it only supports pregnant students who carry a baby to term. Simply put, the bill fails to support any student with a different pregnancy-related outcome. I, like my colleague from Georgia, had a wanted pregnancy. I was past the first trimester when I had an ultrasound, and the doctor said, this is not viable, not a viable pregnancy. So they sent me to the hospital to have a procedure. Now, my colleagues might think that's terrible, but had I been in a post-Dobbs world or state where that wasn't possible, I could have just been made to wait and risk my reproductive health. I went on to have 2 healthy children because I had that procedure. The intent of this bill is clear, Mr. Speaker. It's clear from the text, it's clear from the debate, and it's certainly clear from the timing. It is another attempt to have politicians interfere in the intensely personal decision of when and whether to have a child, a decision that should be made only by the pregnant student, not by members of Congress. In the wake of Dobbs, many states have prohibited or tried to prohibit healthcare providers and health plans from offering or covering certain reproductive healthcare services. These anti-abortion efforts have disproportionately harmed some students whose access to services and information are affected by their geographical barriers, depending on where they are in college. Pregnant and parenting students deserve access to a full range of family planning resources and reproductive healthcare options that keep them healthy and on track for academic success, regardless of where they go to college. And for this reason, Mr. Speaker, at the appropriate time, I will offer a motion to recommit this bill back to the committee. If the House rules permitted, I would have offered the motion with an important amendment to this bill. My amendment would make clear that institutions of higher education will also provide medically accurate and comprehensive information and resources about all reproductive healthcare services, including contraception and abortion rights. The biased anti-choice effort underpinning this bill will make it harder for students to make informed decisions about what is best for them. Promoting partisan legislation that fails to address the full healthcare needs of students does not promote academic success. Again, Mr. Speaker, this is a decision that belongs to the pregnant student, not to members of Congress. So I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the text of this amendment.
Without objection.
and I hope my colleagues will join me in voting for the motion to recommit. And I yield back.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Virginia reserves. Gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
I'm prepared to close, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the balance of the time. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, state abortion bans have undermined health care for pregnant women, causing women to experience life-threatening health conditions and complications, with some women tragically losing their lives because of laws that legislators voted for. Now, House Republicans are going to make things worse by limiting students' access to information about available resources, including information about their right to receive accommodations and protections under federal civil rights laws available to pregnant or parenting students on college campuses. Women should have access to all relevant information so they can make informed decisions about their future. Requiring schools to provide only some information that encourages students to carry a pregnancy to term, this bill could unduly endanger students' health by keeping them in the dark about their rights and resources available to them. Now, the supporters keep saying that they are not amending Title IX, which entitles students to all of this information. They keep ignoring the fact that this bill only requires that some, not all, of that important information be provided. Repeating the misrepresentation does not make it true. Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to oppose the bill and yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. The gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself the balance of my time.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, in closing, I'd like to reemphasize that this bill is about ensuring pregnant students know the rights given to them under Title IX, which cover all of the concerns that my colleagues, with all due respect, on the other side of the aisle say they want included. Title IX includes all of that. We want students to know the rights given to them under Title IX without creating excessive regulations or requirements for colleges and universities. Despite what some of my colleagues have said today, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act doesn't promote a certain viewpoint or ideology. It simply affirms a basic principle, and that principle is pregnant students deserve to know their rights when pursuing an education. I don't believe that to be too radical, Mr. Speaker, and I don't believe the American people do either. In fact, for years, many of my Democrat colleagues acknowledged that abortion is a serious and difficult decision and supported efforts to ensure women were not forced into it by a lack of resources or support. They joined in passing legislation to help women who choose to continue their pregnancies. Yet today, some of those efforts are being undermined unless amendments that explicitly promote abortion are included. It's deeply disappointing that some of my Democrat colleagues have chosen to turn this straightforward transparency bill into an abortion debate, implying that support for pregnant students is contingent on including pro-abortion provisions. Why must an innocent baby ever be seen as an enemy or obstacle to success? This bill also does not provide medical advice or dictate what specific resources colleges and universities may list. For that reason, I would encourage those who oppose this legislation on those grounds to carefully reread the bill's plain language. We all know that when individuals know their rights, they're able to make informed decisions that are best for them and their families and their futures. This is why I urge all my colleagues to vote yes. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman from Michigan yields. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 1009, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to require institutions of higher education to disseminate information on the rights of and accommodations and resources for pregnant students and for other purposes.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Oregon seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Ms. Bonamici of Oregon moves to recommit the bill H.R. 6359 to the Committee on Education and Workforce.
Pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 19, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The motion is not agreed to.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.